Hello and welcome to another episode of the FPL Hangover Podcast, where we raise the bar and lower the tone on all things FPL related. We are coming to you on the 6th of March. Game week 26 is all but said and done, with just a little matter of Brentford v Fulham to get out of the way. But many managers will tell you the damage has already been done, particularly those managers who have played the wild card. And here tonight to talk about the post game week 26 wild card, I have not one but two podcast partners in crime. First up, you can't get enough of him. He's the man from the north. Paddy, how are you getting on, my friend?
I'm getting on the very best. It's good to be back. And you know what? I'm just in absolute awe that we have our very own guest here, an FPL expert on the show here.
Okay, it's taken a lot of convincing, a lot of brown envelopes. We had to pay off a couple of FPL members, but yeah, we are joined by PJ at Hindu Monkey. How are you getting on, buddy?
Absolutely awful.
Pleasure to have you on, PJ. Pleasure as always. I knew you'd brighten up the show with your usual daisy outlook on things.
Yep, here to put that positive spin on the shower of excrement that is FPL.
Do you want me to refer to you as expert PJ or expert Hindu Monkey, or which one?
You can refer to me whatever you want, Paddy.
Okay.
As we said at the top of the show, we hinted at the idea that maybe one of us had played a wild card, but it's not one of us. It's not two of us. It's all three of us hit the wild card button last week, and I don't know. How are you feeling about how things went, Paddy?
I am feeling, of course, I'm going to be optimistic because I'm on a green arrow here, and I've still got two players to play. But in my wild card, I got rid of Gakpo, I got rid of Van Dijk, and I got rid of Nunes. So, fucking horror show, really.
Classic.
Are you only on a green arrow because your rank is so low that it's almost impossible to achieve a red arrow at this point?
Well, that's a good segue into my overall rank there, PJ, and it is my rank at the moment is 208,000 overall.
That's disappointing. I mistakenly thought it was a lot lower than that.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Shots fired. Shots fired early doors there, Paddy.
It's going to be a long night. It's going to be a long podcast.
It's been a long season, mate.
With my northern brother.
Yeah, for those who are not familiar with PJ, because we'd have, obviously there'd be listeners and whatnot, or wouldn't be in and around the FPL community, Twitter and the like. PJ is a big time account, wouldn't you say that, PJ? Expert, big time.
I would leave others to say that, not me.
He fucking hates the expert word, so that's why I keep saying it.
It's other people are welcome to call me what they want. Like I said, I'm Hindu Monkey. I just try and occasionally brighten up everybody else's mood on FPL Twitter by being even worse than they could possibly imagine.
Yes.
Yeah, it makes sense. And to be fair, this isn't your first foray into podcasting. You were part of the well-known Three Amigos podcast that finished up there last year. So I'm sure there's plenty of people that'd be glad to have you back on the airwaves, positive or negative outlook.
Thanks, mate. Probably not Irish people, but yeah, I'm over in England, probably more so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, you're the second British person we've had on, so we're broadening our horizons. We're all friends now. Who was
the first?
Ash from FPL Hints.
Really?
Yeah.
After Ash.
Sorry. Unbelievable. Paddy said he had to make sure he was ahead of you in the overall ranks before you got an invite. I was asked not to say that.
It's taking so long.
I was asked not.
Oh god.
But Paddy, you hinted at your green arrow there for game week 26. How has it actually gone? Give us a shout out there.
Okay, right. So here we go. I had Kepa Nets 6-pointer. It's just a template fucking team. I had what do you call the Brighton left back? You Stupinan? What do you call him?
I guarantee that's not what it is.
It's Stupinan. That's what I say.
Well, I got him. I got a clean sheet there. Gabriel let me down 1-pointer. I've got Henry. I've got Saka captain. I've got Rashford, Martinelli, McAllister 14-pointer. Kane 2 points. Haaland 4 points, and I've got Tony to play. On my bench is Matoma 13 points, Trippier, Botman, and Raya. But as you can tell by that team, it's the kind of pretty standard wildcard team. I feel good. I don't feel great about what happened with the Liverpool game, obviously, and I'll never will. But I'm pretty well set up, I think, going forward.
Yeah, you'd want to be. And again, we'll get into the wildcard stuff in a bit more detail, but it wasn't about this week. PJ, how did your wildcard 26 pan out?
Well, even worse than Paddy's, because I benched Matoma and instead played McAllister. So my only returns were from the aforementioned mispronounced Brighton fullback, and in goal where I went slightly differential, went Martinez, so got 1 extra point there because he got 7 for Villa. Unfortunately, on my bench ready for next week, I also had Roberto Sanchez, so that's a fire that I need to put out as well as everything else. I also went with Fabian Schär, who then was concussed. So yeah, generally speaking, kind of shocking all round. I think I had Odegaard instead of Martinelli as well, but who I'm probably now going to have to bench for subsequent weeks just because of all the Brighton and Brentford players we have. So I look forward to him hauling now that he'll be on my bench. You know, my first sub. You know, I used to make quite a lot of money just betting on my first sub scoring every week. It's just, you know, just like clockwork. So it was good to get back in that because I've gone quite cheap on my bench this year. So obviously this time, because we're all planning for bench boosts and stuff, our benches are probably a lot stronger than they have been all season. So it was good to get the old days back and just seeing my first sub go absolutely fucking ballistic again. So, you know, that was really nice. Yeah. Just like old times.
I think like the big difference there between yourself and Paddy, and we kind of had a quick chat about it before we hit record, was Maddison. And there was quite like, I'm looking at your team there, and as you said, Matoma first sub. I don't see anyone on your team that I would have played.
No, well, the only decision I was making at the end of that front 8 was Maddison versus McAllister, and just like Paddy had done, I would have benched McAllister, but I obviously would have got Matoma points. So that was a big decision for me. It's like, you know, I was always going to bench one Brighton attacker.
Yeah.
I just thought Maddison had a higher ceiling for that particular match. And, you know, don't want to go down the stats route. I'm sure we'll cover that later. But obviously, you know, he did create a number of very presentable chances for Kalichi and Iheanacho to absolutely spoon.
If you think we're going to cover stats later, PJ, you are on the wrong show.
Okay.
Well, I would like to cover a stat right now. I actually benched Matoma 13 points and started McAllister 14 points. So, you know, I would just like the listeners to know.
What do you think a stat is, Patty?
Well, that's a stat to me.
It's just okay.
One point.
Let's not start this, PJ. We could be here all day. Just for myself, since there's no one asked me, Paddy, thanks.
How did you get on?
Oh, there we go. 40 points so far. Again,
40?
41.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, well,
29. 29.
Yeah, but it's the only difference is that Brighton player. Like, if you look at anyone going around at the moment that's in the 20s, late 20s, it's all because they happen to bench a Brighton midfielder. And
but 40 is actually, because unless you owned Liverpool attackers, and most people got rid of them, even if they weren't on wild cards, you know, some people in my mini leagues replaced Nunez for a Tony, or they replaced Salah. You know, it would go right down to a McAllister or a Matoma ready for those, ready for the games. So a lot of people made that move not out of wild card. So it was only really that group of people who were insistent upon playing their wild card the kind of week after that kind of kept that trio of Liverpool players more from kind of hope than anything else, and obviously, you know, hit the absolute jackpot.
Well, for sure. But I mean, Jesus Christ, 7-0. I don't think anyone expected that to be the result at the weekend. So I mean, they definitely got. You know, they definitely got it right this week, but I mean, do you, PJ, think you made a mistake wildcarding?
So I put myself on mute there temporarily. I definitely made a mistake. My old team would have had 40 more points than what I'm on now. So unless Brian Mbeumo whacks in a hat trick later, it was definitely a mistake to wildcard. And So yeah, but you just one of those things. You just have to kind of get on with it. And onwards and upwards, as it were. So,
100%.
Just
Paddy,
sorry, my kids are just bursting in, desperately trying to come down to raid a biscuit jar. So talk amongst yourselves while I just fill that minor skirmish.
No problem. What were you going to say, Jer?
What about yourself, Paddy? Do you think you made a mistake?
Look, I don't think I made a mistake because I have a plan here, like Jer. I have like a wild card is it's not just for one game week. Do you know what I mean? We're looking to the future with it here. And I mean, if you hold the wild card, the longer you hold it, the less good it really is, isn't it? So look, maybe I should have kept maybe a Liverpool player or something, but no, I can't say it. Look, if I made my bed and I'm laying in it, I would have done it again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I mean, I know it's easy. We're sitting here on 40, and it does feel like a pretty decent. Like, I think I've moved from 44k down to 49k. So to me, when you're up in the top 50, that's essentially a fucking grey arrow. It's a non-movement, and I still have the two Brentford lads to play tonight. So even if I get like a poxy penalty out of Tony or a now clean sheet out of Brentford, that's gonna push me up another 6, 7, 8 points. So
100%. And fuck me, I'm up about 100,000 places. Actually, I must double check that later. And I've got 2 players play. So no, I'm fortunate that my wild card, even though I've shipped out a load of points, I'm fortunate that I'm on a green arrow. But I'm also I'm well set up, I think, for a few game weeks going forward now as well. So I'm happy enough.
The thing is that the Liverpool players were quite low owned. The higher owned players, Haaland doing naffle, Kane. Obviously, I know a lot of us owned a blank, but a lot of the big players, there's a lot of big City players, Mahrez, KDB, who obviously kind of blanked or didn't play again. So, the Liverpool players were particularly active teams up in the top regions, weren't particularly kind of well owned. So the damage from an ownership perspective certainly wasn't as big as it could have been. But I wish I'd held on just a week. I certainly wouldn't. If I wish I was umming and ahhing between 26 and 27, and I really do wish I'd waited just that kind of 1 week, and then I'd obviously be in a much kind of stronger position. But other than that, like you said, I am well set up. To be honest, the Sanchez thing is the most annoying thing of my wild card. That's more annoying to me than Salah going ballistic. Not as a Man United fan, but from an FPL perspective, it's more annoying than me benching Matoma, even though it actually cost me nothing this week because I had Martinez anyway. It's the fact that that you've now got to make a transfer to make your bench boost work that's really annoying. And we all get annoyed by different things, but that's like seriously every time I want to play my bench boost, something random like this seems to happen, which means I have to spend an extra 4 points to do so. And each one of those moves just minimizes the impact of that chip more and more and more. It's a crap chip anyway. I hate the bench boost. I'd ban it if I could. That would be the chip I'd definitely get rid of if I had the option.
I like the bench boost. I know it does definitely get a lot of hate. I play with a couple of people who like to get rid of that chip really early in the season. Just get it out of the way. They think it's a distraction, and it allows them then to obviously pump a bit more value into their front 11 or their starting 11. But I always like it. I mean, even if it goes shit, the idea of having 15 players playing in one game week, I don't know, it always tickles my fancy. But you mentioned, the Sanchez thing is incredibly bad luck for anyone that went with him.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, you went with Sanchez and Ward, and in that case, you're getting an 11-pointer off the bench this week out of nowhere. So I suppose that'll kind of soften the blow a little bit, but it is a pain in the ass to have to think, to make another move after your wildcard just to play the bench boost. But you talked about like playing it in game week 27, PJ. What would you be doing if you still had all your Liverpool assets away to Bournemouth and your wildcard?
I think I would only just keep Salah because for me the decision was Salah or Kane as that second premium. I was never going to get rid of Haaland for kind of 26, 27. So it was, and I did, Salah made my initial wild card. I kept him, but it was just as soon as that's the irony, but as soon as Spurs had that fixture confirmed in 27, in 28 rather, I switched to Kane because he had an extra fixture, and it's just logic that obviously Kane had that extra kind of fixture in 28, which meant I could field a full 11 off a wild card. And it's just one of those kind of things in terms of the best laid plans of mice and men. Had Southampton and Spurs not both lost that FA Cup game, I would have held my wild card by an extra week. But because they did, I played it this week because I wanted Kane long term as my second premium over Salah, and it obviously hugely backfired. But you just never expect that type of a 19-point swing between those two players, particularly given the fixtures. It's just something you don't expect. So, but like I said, it's so absurd that that's not the type of thing that actually kind of annoys me. Like I said, the Sanchez stuff is kind of something that kind of annoys me more. But you know that players like Salah and like Kane, like KDB, like Haaland, there are only 7 or 8 players in the game who are capable of sometimes scoring kind of 20-point kind of hauls. You have that in them, and they're going to come. You just never know when they're going to come. So when they do, and you don't own them, you just have to kind of suck it up and get on with it.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I do think the likes of the Sanchez just suddenly losing his place in the team is a bit more frustrating than the Salah swap, because I didn't expect there to be that much of a difference, and it hurts when there is. But it's like getting aces cracked, in poker. Do you know what I mean? It just happens. It's just you made the call that looked better on the day and probably played it right. I mean, I'm the same as you in regards to like Wolves away to Spurs, or Spurs away to Wolves last week. 26 wasn't overly swung on it. I thought if they won 1-0 and Kane got a goal, great. It was really the home match against Forest this week in 27 and the away match to Southampton in 28 that kind of swung it for me. And then away to Everton in 29, I was like, that's nothing to be sniffed at. But I mean, considering how fucking shocking Spurs have been over the last couple of months, I mean, all season if you ask me, but it's particularly over the last couple of weeks. Now all of a sudden I'm starting to... So I think that might be where my wildcard falls down. But I'm not going to judge it on Game Week 26. I think anyone, like a lot of, and this will lead into the next question, but you're seeing it everywhere today, everywhere last night and everywhere today. Oh, wildcarders lost. Those who didn't wildcard, they've won. And I'm going, well, I don't know just yet. Like if those double players, the ones that we've kind of loaded up on, the Brentford assets, if they pick up a clean sheet or two in that 27, like the fact that you have 2 of them, I doubt there's too many non-wildcarders going into 27 with 2 Brentford assets or 2 Brighton defenders. They might have 2 players, but I can't see them loading up on 3. So if they go nuts, that's where we'll make the points back. And I do think, as I said, even tonight, if Brentford gets something against Fulham, that's going to make things look a little less depressing. But
Brentford have just gone 1 up.
Really?
At Fulham, by the way. Can't clock the scorer because it's just on my phone. It's not Ivan Toney or Brian and Bremo.
It's fucking Pinnock. Get in.
Is it?
Oh, yes.
I had him in my fucking team.
The absolute luck.
Oh, what are you talking about, luck? That was
a man with just sums it up this week for me. A man who has scored once in 5 years, suddenly pops up on a wild card and slams it in.
And Twitter has gone mad.
Might be a Tim Ream own goal. Looking at it again,
oh,
might
really?
be a Tim Ream own goal.
Oh, and Woody here, and just then as well, there was an awful miss from Mbuemo.
There was, yeah, but I own him, Paddy, so that's part of the course. He'll do that 5 or 6 times.
I'll tell you.
Yeah, accepted it.
I'll have to hold back the cheer a little bit until that Pinnock goal. But I assume it's obviously going to be his assist.
It'll be his assist minimum. Yeah,
I'll fucking take it. I'll take it.
Yeah.
I went with 3 centre backs this week: Dunk, Pinnock, Gabriel. I was just praying there'd be a bullet header. And if you were watching that Arsenal match, I mean, it felt like 40 to 50% of that game was Arsenal taking corners. It just, did you see the Arsenal match? Paddy, did you see it?
Yeah. Oh, it was crazy.
I didn't see the Arsenal match, sorry, but I heard all about it. And,
Saka took so many corners.
I heard that, like, and I don't know who your captains were, but I had Saka, and I felt really in a good place after Haaland only got an assist, and I was like, here we go.
Completely,
Here we go, guys. It's going to be a good day. And here we are, Arsenal done fuck all, Saka done fuck all, and United got beat 7-0 by Liverpool, and now Pinnock has fucking scored, and I've went Henry instead of Pinnock. and of course you.
It's early days. It's early days, Paddy. But it is another blow, which I know we're going to talk about later. But for kind of Analytics FC, because again the stats favoured Ben Mee. They favoured Rico Henry. None of them favoured Pinnock.
Not by a lot. Not by a lot, PJ.
Do you know what that is then? Well, I'm like, fuck you, Stats FC.
Just vibes, Paddy. Just vibes.
Well, I mean,
it's almost as if it's a game of luck. But anyway,
there's definitely a lot of luck involved. But like, just going back to the stats, like there wasn't a lot of difference between Pinnock and me. Like I looked at the
they're
two
all
of them.
shit.
They are all shit. What made me go Pinnock, and it's the same reason I went March, was just to save a few bob and be able to...
Jared, if you fucking fell out a window, you'd go up.
You get out of here. Get out of here. I've had plenty of shit luck this season. But, you know, compared to you two, I can't really play the poor mout. But no, I thought Pinnock was just a slightly cheaper version, and my plan was to go Shaw and Fernandez in game week 29, and I just wanted 0.2 spare in the bank just in case a couple of people went up, and Shaw then dropped last night, so that should see me safely through. Although, who knows, maybe United have just absolutely, you know, destroyed their season now, and they'll never be able to pick themselves back up. Who knows? PJ, who do you follow, just out of curiosity?
I'm a Manchester United fan.
Oh, okay, so all three of us are in the same boat.
Yes.
Okay, that makes me feel a bit better. So all three of us were cursing it last week. So, I mean, did that play into your decision to wildcard, in the sense that, you know, being able to get off those Liverpool assets and not have to...
No, not really. I don't tend to look at it like that. I looked at it in isolation. I thought that Liverpool... it was more that I thought we'd been defending really well recently. And I thought the game... I thought it might be quite open, and it was first half. It could have gone either way. It was a pretty open first half. Could have been 1-1, could have been 2-2. But then, yeah, obviously, second half, we just capitulated. And that's what you can't legislate for in football. You can legislate for the 1 or 2, but you can't plan for a team, which we sadly did, just completely losing their fucking heads when they go kind of 3-0 down and kind of acting in the way that we did. And that's why we lost 7-0.
Yeah,
and not 3-0, and that's why obviously Ten Hag is as furious and has been as furious as he is because of that. It was so unprofessional. It was embarrassing. It was absolutely embarrassing.
It was absolutely terrible. But you know what though? Just to try and be like somewhat positive of the whole situation, not just the match. I mean, I think it was like 44 games with no depth in the squad. It was a blip, a very, very embarrassing blip. But also, it's a pity it had to happen. It had to happen against fucking Liverpool. I'm just grateful it didn't happen against Barcelona and it didn't happen in the cup final. But do you know what? I think for a team to go and win 7-0, a lot of things have to go right and a lot of things have to go wrong on the other side. And I think they had 8 shots and they scored 7 goals. So, like, I mean, I don't know whether it was Liverpool were really, really great or United were really, really terrible or a balance. But I think it's the latter. I think United were just absolutely a shambles. Like, but hopefully it's there's
always a mixture of both. I think the only thing I'm more confident on than I certainly was under the previous kind of few managers is that there'll be a response. I think if we still had Solskjaer or kind of Mourinho at the wheel, I'd look at that and think, fucking hell, that's going to demoralise us. Yeah, exactly. Right. We're going to be crap next game. Whereas I would thoroughly expect us to be even more up for the next game than we could ever be. Obviously, got Betis in the Europa. Mm-hmm. And look, you know, I might be wrong. We might get battered again, but you know, I've trust the process. I've got confidence that I think.
Yeah, me too.
There's nothing there to put me off our FPL assets, I think.
Yeah, and you know what? Just there, going back to that wild card question. I didn't take my Liverpool players out because, you know, the United game. I'm same as PJ. I was looking ahead. Sure, other than the Bournemouth game, I would love to have had them. But after that, they blank. Then it's Chelsea. Then it's Arsenal, and I think they have another tough fixture after that. I just,
Man City away is also
Man City away
Chelsea
as well. So
Arsenal
I mean that was a big reasoning behind the wild card in 26. But is there an argument now that, you know, the wild carders in 27 was the way to go? I don't know, but that's we've made our beds on that one anyway.
Yeah, I think 27 wildcard is that'll remain to be seen. I think it'll be interesting, as I mentioned a while ago, to see what to do with their Liverpool assets. Like I'd be if I was wildcarding in 27, I'd probably be similar thinking to PJ in the sense that like it's kind of tough to get rid of Salah now. You know, especially
Yeah,
away to
especially
Bournemouth.
Bournemouth. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, most people would have had at least two coming off of the back of the last game week. So I mean, I don't know. They'll be. Sorry, go on.
If you have Salah now, you're not getting rid of him, are you? You're getting rid of the rest of them.
Yeah, I'm probably, as Peter said, he'd probably be my second premium and just avoid Kane. You know?
Very, 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 very hard to do that now. And like I said, you're not going to get Salah, Kane, and Haaland probably. So if the same thing could happen again, you could certainly see a scenario where wild covers in 27 all keep Salah, avoid Kane, and Kane slams in a hat trick against Forest.
Yeah,
So,
that's right.
You know, you never know. You don't say that they've won until the next week has happened, but they're in a very strong position. You know, like I said, wildcarders really do need Kane to go ballistic and those Liverpool assets to be quiet.
100%. And one positive we can take away from this is that we don't have that headache anymore.
No, we don't. Are we all Are we all bench boosting in 29, or have either of you looked at 27?
I'm bench boosting 29.
29. What about you, Peter?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I was in two minds, but the Sanchez situation means I definitely now will be looking to 29. I'm probably not going to take him out, actually. I'm still planning on I'm going to roll this week because I could just play Martinez. And just in case, because I can see, you know, I don't want to try and paint a picture that I am incredibly unlucky, even though I have broken FPL review. But, you know, I could see a scenario where I removed Sanchez and then Steele gets red carded or is injured and he's straight back in. So 29 is still a month away, as we spoke about. There's an international break in between as well.
That's right.
So now I don't need him for 27 or 28 because Martinez is going to play that fixture in 28 anyway. So I'll just accept the fact that I've got one less double. I'm not taking a transfer, which would effectively be a hit when it came to 29, just to get a double Brighton defence this week. I'll just play the one. I've got, you know, we would all be benching. We're going to be benching some really good assets this week. I've got Newcastle. If Shah's fit, he'll just come into my team. You know, that is that type of thing. We've all got good assets on the bench again, so it's just not worth the transfer for me.
Yeah, 27. We'll get onto a bit more detail, but I guess the tricky one is Fulham away for Arsenal.
Yeah.
How many Arsenal assets are you going to leave on the bench, Paddy?
I've got 2 on my bench at the moment. Just looking at it.
Yeah.
I think I'll just have Gabriel. I think I'm going to bench Maddison. I'm annoyed with him, and also because I hate Chelsea so much. If Maddison pops up with a hat trick against Chelsea, I'll still be really happy. So psychologically,
it's a win-win.
I'm happy to stay there. Odegaard missed. I'm putting this in my team of the week later, but Odegaard had something like 13 shots and created 6 chances. It was absolutely incredible that he walked away with 0 points in that match, or 2 points. Absolutely incredible. Fulham can't defend for shit, so you know.
I'm actually expecting it to be a little. I mean, I have Odegaard as well, and I'll be benching him. I actually think maybe I'm just being fucking super hopeful here, but I think that could be a tough one. I think they're not great defensively, but at home they've been solid enough, you know. And Arsenal, you know, it took them long enough to score a goal against Bournemouth. So part of me is thinking that was at the Emirates. So part of me is thinking maybe we'll get away with it, but I also feel like that'll be the second round of wildcard bashing, you know, because there'll be those who didn't wildcard in 27 even, kept their Liverpool assets a little bit longer and wanted to play their Arsenal assets, and if they go off on one, and then the likes of myself and yourself, Paddy, are sitting there with Odegaard and fucking Gabriel on our benches, we're going to look like right twats.
Is that who you so you're Odegaard? I have Gabriel and Martinelli on the bench, and it's breaking my heart just looking at it. But there's no one else I can bench. My defense is the Brighton and Brentford guys who've got a double, and my other one is Trippier home to Wolves. So I can't play Gabriel ahead of either of those three. I don't think. And I'm playing Saka. The armband's on Saka at the moment. Rashford, Matoma, and McAllister. So there's no room for Martinelli. And it's Kane, Haaland, and Tony. So I just have to fucking grit my teeth and look at that.
Yeah. But I mean, that was all in the plan for winning
Yeah.
wildcarders. Like, I knew that I was going to be doing that, and I was as uncomfortable then making that decision as I will be next week. But that's the way it goes. We were talking about Twitter there and the effect it can have. I mean, there's been quite a buzz on it today in terms of, and yesterday evening in terms of, as I said, kind of wildcard bashing, basically turning their
Content creator bashing as well.
content creator bashing as well. We'll get onto that. We have a question about that. But PJ, how much was Twitter involved in your wildcard? Just out of curiosity, and I know you were saying that the Man United match didn't really affect it, but did Twitter?
Yeah, I kind of yes and no, in that I wouldn't say that anybody, any person or kind of individual account convinced me to kind of wildcard, but simply being on Twitter and so being more aware very quickly of those permutations following the kind of FA Cup. So like I said, I ultimately chose to wildcard this week if I could pin it down to one thing because of that Tottenham-Southampton result, which seems silly, but I didn't have any Brighton or Brentford players anyway. So I knew I had to wildcard in 26 or 27, unless I just took 12 points worth of hits over the next 2 weeks, which I didn't really want to do. So there wasn't any single piece of contact, single piece of account. That's why it's so poor when people single out those people individually by name and target them. But we know that if we're on Twitter, if you're an active part of the Twitter community, you are going to be exposed firsthand to information much quicker than the average person who has to seek it out. I was on Scout for years, long before I joined Twitter, FPL, and I would just go on a couple of hours before deadline or the night before deadline and look at that and so the decision-making process would be much, much shorter. It would be kind of much more on my own kind of thing. Whereas now we're just taking in all that information. So I certainly do think that Twitter collectively was why so many people wildcarded. And I think that's borne out by the facts that only about 3% of people actually wildcarded, whereas on Twitter it must have been about 80% of kind of active Twitter accounts that wildcarded. So that's a huge discrepancy. So it definitely had an influence, but it's not individual people. It's the fact that everyone's talking about the same thing, and you just become kind of part of that. So
yeah, no, it does.
Go on ahead, Jared.
No, I was just going to say it does. It does sometimes kind of feel like you can be being swayed, but like I remember, just as you mentioned there, PJ, in terms of like pre-Twitter and all that nonsense, being on Scout, and you just kind of knew that this was the week that the majority of engaged managers were going to end up playing their chip. It was like you just got that kind of vibe. Same with triple captain chips and stuff. You just kind of know, oh, yeah, this is going to make sense. And I was saying it in group chats last week. This is going to make sense for an awful lot of managers, and there'll be a certain build of team that Game Week 26 wildcard, or 27, depending on what way you want to attack it, just made sense. Those who didn't have Brentford, those who didn't have Brighton, it was like last week. Tom from Who Got the Assist, free hitting. Now, not the majority of people would have used their free hit last week, but you knew, looking at his team, it just made sense. You were like, yeah, because you've already prepped yourself for these weeks, and you're getting boned in 25, so free hit makes perfect sense. And there's no one going, oh, fucking swayed by this or swayed by that. And I don't know, I feel like sometimes Twitter maybe even gets a little bit too much credit. I agree with you that there's a lot of exposure, and you do get engaged with a lot of that, but at the same time, I think you could have taken Twitter out of it, and if it was just boards.ie or whatever forums used to be popular, you would have still had that same general consensus that if your team was X, Y, and Z, then wildcard made sense. But what are you going to say, Paddy?
No, I was going to say Twitter can be such a bubble at times. I mean, there can be such a hype around a player, and then you actually look at the main game and you see the transfers, and you're like, oh, no one's actually transferred that player, and then the masses have. You know what I mean? But it can also be, of course, I agree with everything you just said there. There's so much information, you can consume it all, but it's at the end of the day, it's up to yourself to play your own game and use that information, how you see fit. So, that a lot of people then, these people that just copy people's teams and things, and then all of a sudden if something goes wrong, they're just absolutely slaughtering the person that was just basically giving out a bit of advice or a bit of information, and it can be just taken too far sometimes.
Good point, and it actually segues into one of the questions we got this week from FPL Renegades, friend of the show. He says, more of a show of solidarity in the question. As content creators, and he uses the term loosely, do you ever wonder why you bother when this community is full of entitled, revisionist, fragile, finger-pointing dopes who take zero responsibility for their own teams? Paddy, I'll throw that over to you.
Was that to me?
That's to you. Deer in the headlights moment.
Okay, I love Drew's his wordmanship there. Very, very, very good, Drew. But you know what? To me, it just bounces off me. I couldn't give a flying fucking flute. Do you know what I mean? I don't. Whatever I say, I don't. I'm not like one of those content creators that I know. I use that very loosely. That puts out content and it's gospel. I like the way that what we do here is we just have a chat. Anything we do chat about, we're never telling anybody this is what you should do. We're just talking about what's the path ahead. And so I mean, I these people that are fucking finger pointing and entitled pricks. I mean, that's just I wouldn't agree with that at all. I mean, you just, like I said before, you consume the information and you play your own game at the end of the day.
Yeah. What about you, PJ? Any thoughts on that?
I'm probably a little bit more controversial on this topic in that I do think when you're paying somebody, and a lot of top content creators do charge to some degree, either they're behind a paywall with a particular membership-based account, or they're a patron service, or they're even if they're just looking for people to buy them a coffee or something. I do. No, not you, Paddy. You've been asking for coffee for years. It's okay.
I know.
Yeah. I also assumed that was just simply to warm you up after you stepped out of the ocean.
Yeah.
It wasn't actually for anything you had to say about FPL, thank God. So, I do think you do run the risk then of attracting more of that type of kind of character who's going to want something for that return. So whilst I'm not sympathising with any stretch of imagination, people who are abusing, and like you say, make your own decisions and stuff. But that's why I would, I mean, my content is very tongue in cheek. It's kind of quite loose, and I'm baffled by some people. And I still get, I'm quite a prominent account. I do get DMs saying, "Oh, why the hell did you tell me to do that?" It's like, well, I didn't tell you. I just, jokingly presented that person as an option. I thought, why on earth would you listen to me? It was just, but I think you do lose a little bit of that high ground when you are charging somebody for a service. So I'm not going to name any names. There are obviously loads of people who kind of do that, and loads of people who are my friends who do that. But I do think we just have to be mindful of that as the game generally becomes bigger, becomes more monetized, and more things become either behind paywalls or promotion based. We have to be mindful that the people who are creating that are going to have their opinions scrutinized a little bit more. And I think that's just part and parcel of the game. And we should still be respectful, obviously. But that was just the point I wanted to make.
No, I think it's Go on, Paddy.
Well,
I was saying it's a very fair point. I understand. I would add to it in the sense that, like, the majority of people that are offering extra services for money, or who are asking for a donation to whatever, get me a coffee, whatever it's called, I think that a lot of the time, like, that money would barely cover probably the time they put into it, let alone, like, they're not making a profit off it. Like, I can tell you from years of playing music and shit like that you're not, if you get your petrol money covered, and in some cases I suppose servers and all that kind of stuff, you're just happy. You're just that you feel like a millionaire, and it doesn't justify some of the abuse that people get. But I think it is a fair point that the more you advertise yourself as a would you say, I don't know, as a specialist,
FPL expert, would you maybe say?
FPL expert, yeah, that would be it.
I was trying very hard to avoid that word.
I want to butt in there now a minute here.
Go for
There's
it.
some content creators making obscene amounts of money.
There are. There's rare. There's probably only about a dozen.
Content creators out there making more than their petrol money, and I say that very, very, the 100%. But I think the main takeaway there, and you both said it, no one deserves to be fucking abused anyway. There's a bit of respect, but everything you just said there about, PJ said it there. If you're putting yourself out there and you're taking people's money, fair enough. You're open to a little bit of criticism, But I mean, no one deserves to be fucking booed off stage. Seen some accounts this week.
Some people definitely deserve to be booed off stage, and they're still fucking kicking. But let me ask you, and I'll throw it over to you first, PJ. Why do you play FPL?
At this point, Stockholm syndrome.
Stockholm.
No, but I used to play it for enjoyment and bragging rights with my mates, and I much preferred it back then. I don't even know why, because I think now I play it really because I'm quite a big Twitter account, and I wouldn't, if I didn't play FPL as a big Twitter account, I wouldn't be a big Twitter account anymore. I just feel like I was a guy hanging around in a room with lots of people who were doing something that I wasn't anymore. So I just kind of keep going, and it used to add a lot more entertainment and a lot more value into the game. I did like that idea of watching a game of football where you had like one or two players in, which you would never normally watch, and that type of thing. But the flip side of that is that obviously it's a game which is very difficult to kind of do well at consistently, because it's ultimately out of our control. So yeah, now I'm probably going to stick with my answer of Stockholm syndrome. I mean, do you enjoy it, Gur? Yeah.
Sure. I wouldn't say, I mean, why I play FPL, the pussy. That's it. Simple as that, PJ. You go out on a night out, get your big green arrow out. You've just got women throwing themselves at you.
It's worked well for us.
But no, I mean,
it's all right. He doesn't listen to the show.
No, he doesn't listen to it.
He might do when I retweet it and tag him
in. Jesus. I'd like to think everyone listens to it at some stage. They can't avoid it. But no, I mean, genuinely, I play the game for pretty much exactly what you said, PJ, in the sense that started off as bragging rights with mates, and it did add an extra bit of enjoyment. All of a sudden, Watford versus Norwich had meaning, whereas before I couldn't have given two shits about what the result was. And then now over the years, it's kind of it's wearing thin. It's definitely diminishing returns a little bit, and maybe someday I will just kind of.
I tell you what, one of the COVID definitely ruined it for me. I mean, COVID ruined so much, but the reason COVID ruined it for me was because we went through that phase where we had every game televised, and we'd be heading towards that anyway. We used to only get 3 games televised a week. Now it's on average 5 probably, and obviously in COVID we had all 10 regularly, kind of staggered and kind of thing. The times, regardless of how well I'm doing, there's probably 2 or 3 occasions in the season where I really fucking love FPL still, and that's when there's loads of games on at the same time.
Yeah.
Last game week of the season, you will occasionally have a couple of those midweek games. Amazon Prime do it brilliantly, in fairness to them, where you have 6 or 7 games on, and seeing all the goals fly in all at different once, knowing that you have so many different assets involved at once, rather than watching a whole 90 minutes with one player, and it just puts so much pressure on that player. And that, whereas, having it all fly in, that's when, I know in my WhatsApp groups with my mates or my DM groups, that's when the banters properly fly in, because it can change at any given moment. And that's what I love about FPL still, and I'd love to see more of that. I don't think it's going to happen because
I think it will, PK. I think next season will be the first season we actually get it back, because of course we had COVID, then we had the Queen croaking, and we had loads of stuff. So I think next season we might have it back to being normal.
It might be, and obviously tying into that in terms of one of the things I don't think Twitter, just to tie that back to content creators, one of the things that's been so hard, not just as a content creator but anyone playing FPL this season, is that all our transfers have continued to be dictated by fixtures, because there's almost every week there's a blank or a double, which is ridiculous. So there's only a small pool of players. So even casuals like you say, or even your
Like Paddy.
mates leagues. Yeah, exactly. They're going to still bring in March because why wouldn't you? He's got a double fixture, and it's just kind of logic in that respect. So that means that most teams are more similar. There are far less kind of punty options to kind of talk about. I can't big up Dom Solanke at the moment because he doesn't have until he has a double fixture. Because it's like, well, why would you ever pick somebody who doesn't have a double or plays in a blank game week or stuff? And that's going to be pretty much it to the rest of the season. And I think because of a World Cup and because of a little bit of COVID at the beginning of it, we've got to accept the fact that this season was a complete anomaly, and next season we'll go back to hopefully more of a normality. And if FPL can sort the fucking prices out, we'll actually have 50 or 60 players to choose from rather than just a pool of 5 or 6 each week, which is what it feels like.
FPL towers have so much more to sort out than just their prices. Like the game itself is, I think it's it just hasn't been updated. It hasn't kind of caught up with the times in terms of fantasy games and how they're played. I know everyone has hits the same bullet points, but the fact that there's so many players that are just not fantasy options in the game. Why are they there? The price.
Like they may as well just not include players like fucking Casemiro or your Fabinhos or your Hendersons or your fucking Enzos. They may just don't include them unless you're going to put them at fucking 4 million or something. You know what I mean?
But
like, why would you? Anyway, that's a whole other podcast. But I mean, you know what I mean? Like, you're never going to have those players in your team because why? Because they don't get points for what their job is: tackling, making fucking passes, or intercept. I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
No, you're 100% right. And I think the game is kind of being aimed at casuals. Yeah, I mean, I use the word loosely in that regard. I mean, I've no problem using the word casual when it matters, but I just think the fact that it has a wider, they just want as much as they can. The same way they've diluted the taste of Guinness, Paddy. It's like they
I'm a Beamish fan now, and Murphy's. I've been raving about that since I've come back.
Yeah, I'm happy that Limerick had some kind of left some kind of impression, and you didn't get stabbed, so all good there.
Yeah.
But so that was. I hope that answered the question, Drew, a little bit. We also, I suppose that kind of touches on the whole content creation thing, but I did see, actually, I don't know if you saw it today, but I saw a poll on Twitter asking who was responsible for, I can't remember the fuck, pull up the poll, but who was responsible for the wildcarding trend? Was it content creators or, people, the players themselves? And it was like 4 out of 10 were blaming content creators. I think I need to double check where that poll is after coming from, but that kind of blew my mind. I was like, I know obviously you can't take everything for truth on Twitter, but like that, there's an element to kind of what the general thought is on it. And I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts on whether content creators? I suppose we've already kind of covered it, but yeah, no. I'm just fucking rambling now. I didn't bookmark that fucking thing. Bloody hell, going through my phone looking for the next thing, trying to vamp away. But let's move on. We're nearly done. 48 minutes in. Fucking hell, time is flying. Before we start wrapping up, game week 27 captaincy. Where are we lying, Paddy? What are you thinking? You kind of touched on it a while ago. It's on. Who's your armband on?
Yeah. At the moment, it's sitting on Saka, but I mean, there wasn't much thought behind that. I just kind of set up my bus team, but I'm looking here at fucking Harry Kane with Nottingham Forest. There's double game weekers here. I could go Matoma or McAllister, actually. Maybe Tony. I have no fucking clue.
I was going to say, you have no idea you're captain of that.
I have no fucking idea. What about you guys?
I don't know, PJ, what are you looking at?
Oh, well, I have never and will never put my captaincy on a single game week player when there's a double game week player in my team. So I will never do that, even though I think if I think Harry Kane home to Forest is probably as good a fixture as you're likely to get for a single game week, particularly more so because Spurs lost and I'd probably expect a reaction there. But no, it will be a single game. It will probably be Matoma, unless I fancy an absolute batshit punt on Mbeumo. But having watched kind of in one eye the first 40 minutes of this Bournemouth match and being reminded once again that he cannot finish his fucking dinner, is not likely to be that. So I'm probably going to go for, Matoma, to be honest.
Yeah, Paddy's left us. But
No, I'm back.
But I think the fact that you've gone in Mbeumo like that makes sense why you'd be put off by it. But anyone with Tony, you obviously have the penalties in your lockout, so you're thinking for me now, I'm stuck between a Brentford asset, or Tony should I say, and a Brighton midfielder. And obviously Mitoma's kind of haul at the weekend is kind of made me start looking a bit closer at him. But I don't know. I just I think it's that penalties are kind of swinging me away to Everton.
McAllister's on penalties, isn't he?
He is, but I don't have McAllister. I went with March to save the 0.3 or something like that. But Brighton's fixtures away to Leeds, at home to Crystal Palace, and then Brentford's away to Everton, away to Southampton. I mean, to be honest with you, there's not a whole lot separating the double for either team. So I think I'll probably end up leaning on Brighton, maybe just because of that home fixture at the end of the game week 27. But yeah, that question came in from FPL Quinner, last year's mini league champion. But yeah, I think I'm leaning towards probably either Matoma or March. But considering last week's haul, probably stick it with Matoma. He looks insane. Actually, he was one of the few assets that I basically, after watching the FA Cup match, decided there's no doubt he's one of the two Brighton lads I'm getting in. He just looks absolutely lethal.
I've waited so long to get him in. He's finally in my team, and then I bench him for his 13 points.
Boo-hoo, you played McAllister for his 14 points.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Brentford have conceded on the stroke of half-time. And as expected,
Mitrovic.
It's via the man I sold on my wild card, Andreas Pereira.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Well, we've all sold him.
I think it's actually an assist from him. Yeah, didn't cross the line, and that fucking Solomon guy, who I think a few people may have wildly punted on, has tapped in from on the line. So yeah, 1-1, clean sheets wiped out. So more wins if you're a Pinnock owner, less so for us, Paddy. So it's gonna be a 9 blank week on my wild card, unless something incredible happens in the second half, which is extraordinary. To get 9 blanks in a single week is terrible. But on a
sort of a record.
On a wild card. Oh no, I've had all 11 before, Paddy. Don't you worry about it.
Wow.
But yeah, 9 is pretty poor.
That is tough to beat. So we talked about captaincy. What about transfers for next week? Are you said you're rolling, PJ?
Yeah, I won't be making anything. I would always plan to roll. I could do Sanchez to Steele or Sanchez to Raya, but I don't particularly want to. I don't think this Brentford team keep enough clean sheets for me to go double at the back. So at this stage, I'd rather just hold it, see if anything happens to 29. That's when I'm going to bench boost. I'll get rid of Sanchez then for whatever keeper looks good. And I think I've got for the game week 29 team that I kind of put together, kind of on paper, forward planning, had I think 9.4 million in the bank. So I could pick any keeper in the game. So I'm not bound by any kind of financial money. So
any plans on getting rid of Haaland? That's been touted about the place.
Yes. Yeah. I'm again, best laid plans. Injuries might dictate otherwise, or people being randomly dropped for no reason. But I am planning to get rid of Haaland, not next week, but in the blank 28, and probably replace him with a striker who then plays someone like a Felix, someone like a Solanke, someone who plays and then doubles in 29, basically, with a plan to then buy Haaland back in week 30. So
yeah, there'll be a lot of people looking at Ollie Watkins, I think. The fact that he's got a home fixture.
Watkins, another one, yeah.
What about you, Paddy? Any plans for game week 27? Any transfers?
Not at the moment. I'm sitting here with, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 double game week players, and I have no real desire to transfer any of my players out for a doubler, if that makes any sense. I don't want to get rid of Kane or Haaland, Rashford or Saka or Trippier. So I'm just gonna roll the transfer and see what happens. See what I can do for to strengthen my Game Week 29 bench boost.
Yep, that makes sense. Same as
Like
myself.
yourself? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be rolling. I mean, that was always the plan. You it's one of my. It's same way PJ has a rule about like double game weekers and not captaining a single guy in a double game week. I have the kind of, unless something serious happens, I won't make a transfer the week after my wildcard. Obviously, if one of my premiums breaks his leg, that kind of changes the game a little bit. But as a rule, I try to follow that up with a roll the next week afterwards. But before we go, PJ, I have one question. Actually, it kind of fills into the whole game week 39, which I believe ye are both a part of.
We are, yes.
We are indeed, yes.
Would you like to plug that, either of you?
Go on ahead, PJ. I plugged it last week.
Yeah. I'm sure by now everyone kind of knows what it is, but obviously a fantastic event for Street Charge United. It's June the 3rd in Villa. Tickets will go on sale in a few weeks, and we really hope we can get as many people as possible to kind of come along. And it's not just some sort of like kind of elitist kind of big account event. We have held trials both north and south this year. Anybody's been invited. Several players will be in the squad this year based on their performances at those trials on both sides. And it's just been a pleasure to be part of. And we'll go there, we'll watch a football game. There'll be a few charity events going on, and then we'll go out and we'll get absolutely shit-faced together. So cannot recommend it high enough. So yeah, follow the Game Week north-south kind of tag, or Benny Blanco, our gaffer and 90-minute man.
Yeah, you talked about trials and stuff. We actually did get a second part of that question from Drew Renegades. He says, on a scale of Roberto Baggio's penalty into space and Ademola Lookman's Panenka, how bad was FPL Air's penalty miss yesterday?
Well, it was not as bad as either of those two, because crucially he did hit the target, so much so that our keeper saved it. Bearing in mind that our keeper is a 70-year-old man, so he obviously can't get to the ground particularly quickly. So that gives you a kind of idea of how softly struck the penalty was, that he was essentially able to walk over to the corner of a goal and then feebly bat it straight out to their opposition player, who slammed it in, giving FPL the assist, but also missed penalty points. So I don't know what that works out from FPL perspective. But yeah, disappointing from him. It wasn't the best penalty, but look, you get it on target and it resulted in a goal. So on the day, you take that.
Yeah, there you go. And you know what? How good was apart from the result last year's event, PJ?
Yeah, absolutely fantastic day. Like I said, to meet so many good people, and everyone was just there. The vast majority of people there, both players and fans, were there for the right reasons, which was to get behind an incredible charity. And there are a lot of huge accounts there. Ben Krell, Ben Dinnery, talking about people with hundreds of thousands of followers, and there were no egos out there. It was just people just having a laugh for a good cause. And we all went out afterwards, shook each other's hands, got drunk, and we'll be doing the same this year, regardless of the result.
And only this year, I'm not being clear, it's going to be bigger and better.
It is. There's rumours of a 6-a-side North v South girls match before, which would also obviously be great. Because there's a lot of really big, kind of great female accounts in the community as well. So we're pleased to be able to extend that to them. And I think it will snowball from them. I think if it's a bigger event next year, more people are going to want to. I've played in both for trials matches, and I've been blown away by the response. People coming over from Ireland, people coming from fucking America to kind of play in these matches just shows how amazing the kind of global kind of idea of it, and how big FPL Twitter has kind of become, that people are traveling from all over the world to kind of play in these events and just go and have a drink with people and just have a bit of a crack. And so I think if it's big again this year, which I assume it will be, we may get to kind of like a kind of semis and a kind of final stage, and then it can kind of snowball from there. And fair play to kind of Benny and Gianni and a kind of a few others who've been involved. Myself, like right from the beginning. Ash, obviously, it's just become a massive event, and hopefully will be one for several few years. Or though at my age, I may have to take a managerial backseat kind of after this season. Certainly if we lose again, I think I'll just retire myself at that point. So I think you guys summed it up perfectly. And for anyone interested in it, there's going to be a description below in the
place where you'd put a description. Paddy, where can everyone find you?
You can get me at FPL Viking _ on Twitter, the Cafe Fella on TikTok, and I think that's it, isn't it?
I don't fucking know.
Oh yeah, Instagram, the Viking Dippers on Instagram. There you go.
Yeah, I just think there was a bigger one. What about yourself, PJ? Anyone looking to catch up on you? Where can they get you?
Yeah, just find me on Twitter at Hindu Monkey. As you can clearly see, I'm neither a Hindu nor a monkey. But yeah, that is where you can find me on Twitter. You're very welcome to follow me on Instagram as well. But literally all I do is post pictures of my cats. So
they're great cat pictures.
They are great cat. Your dog has featured in a couple of shots.
Yeah, my dog is on your page.
Of course, I do occasionally steal other people's pets to farm off as my own, if they're in a particularly good pose. As Paddy's Alsatian, is it?
Yeah.
At that time, a very, very powerful pose he was sporting. So yeah, I stole that one. Yeah.
Excellent. All right, so anyone wants to check PJ out, follow him on Twitter at Hindu Monkey. Paddy, I would thank you for being here, but you're going to be back next week, so
yes,
I'll just hand this over to PJ. PJ, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, and I hope to have a chat with you again sometime.
You too, mate. Lovely to be here. And me and Paddy have been chatting about it for a while, so great that he finally remembered who I was. And we'll go again.
And I want to say before PJ goes, it's been great having you on, PJ. And PJ is a great guy. Hindu Monkey's account is a fantastic account. He makes lots of stupid fucking bets, and he loses his money, and he puts it all towards charity. And I think he's a great guy, and one of my favorite accounts on Twitter. So thank you so much, PJ, coming on. You're an absolute star.
Thank you so much, Paddy. Unfortunately, that won't actually carry much weight coming from you, but I do appreciate the sentiment anyway.
All right, brilliant. Anyone wants to check out the show, you can follow us at FPL Hangover on Twitter. You can also reach out to us on Gmail. It's fplhangover@gmail.com. If you enjoyed what you heard this evening, make sure to hit like and subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, share it with your friends and family, or even just, give it to somebody you don't really like as some kind of obscure punishment. I don't give a shit. But most importantly, everyone, enjoy Game Week 27, and God bless.